Good morning. It's October 28th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. The glaring hypocrisy of Democrats never ceases to amaze me. And I'm old enough to remember when Robert C. Byrd, the Democrat from West Virginia, was the leader of the Democratic caucus in the Senate, and yet he had been a grand wizard in the KKK. But he was forgiven for his transgression because he was a Democrat, and it was obvious that he had repented. Those of us who worked around Byrd knew better. He was a racist until his death. Joe Biden voted against school busing and school integration early in his career. As he was running for the presidency, he touted his ability to work with segregationist senators from the South. At the time, Biden said he disagreed with those views, but needed to work with them to get things done. But political experts and education policy experts said that Biden, a supporter of civil rights in other areas, did not simply compromise with segregationists. He also led the charge on an issue that kept black students away from the classrooms of white students. His legislative work against school integration advanced a more palatable version of the separate but equal doctrine and undermined the nation's short-lived effort at educational equality. Legislative and education history experts agree with this. Now, I bring up these examples because we have one going on once again. How many times have we heard liberals and Democrats use the word fascist when describing Trump or his supporters? We hear it each and every day because it rolls off their lips as normal speech. But not according to Noel Wallace from MSNBC. She says she's never heard a Democrat call Trump a Nazi. She must have been in a coma for the last 10 years because they do it every day. But now we know why MSNBC's ratings are at the bottom of the ratings scale. Now, of course, the Democrats don't have any real evidence of this claim. Most of them have no concept of what real fascism looked like. There'd be no protests in the streets if this were a true fascist regime. There'd be no opposition in Congress if this were true. But Democrats never let the facts get in the way of a good slogan to rally their troops. Now, one of the targets for Democrats in the midterm elections is Susan Collins, a Republican from Maine who's a moderate Republican. She served the people of Maine well during her tenure in the Senate. When it came time to recruit candidates for next year's midterms, some Democrats had a goal of finding political newcomers who don't talk like Beltway insiders and are ready to fight back against the Trump administration. As the saying goes, be careful what you wish for because you might not get what you want. The Democrats are pushing Graham Plattner in Maine. He's a gruff veteran who became an oysterman. He seemed to fit the bill they were looking for. He was talking left-leaning policies with the blunt talk of blue-collar men the Democrats have been trying to win back. In a poll last week, Plattner led Governor Mills 58-24. You heard that correctly. He's up 34 points in the primary race. And like any race, there's always opposition research being done, and what they find in Mr. Plattner has jumped to the top of the list. Using information drawn from his own social media accounts, he describes himself as a communist, called police officers bastards, made insensitive remarks about sexual assault, and argued that black customers don't leave tips. Then came the real big one. Plattner had a tattoo on his chest that resembled a symbol used by the SS during the Nazi regime in Germany. Now that he's running for office, he had it covered up with another tattoo. So what should the Democrats do when faced with the facts that this guy might be a real fascist and a racist? You'd think those social media posts would force them to renounce him. But so far, no Democrat of any substance has made that call. Now, why are they having a hard time with calling Plattner a Nazi and pushing him out like they had pushed out Al Franken after he was called a rapist? For the same reason they aren't pushing out Jay Jones for his vicious fantasies about killing the children of Republicans. They have the legacy media on their side, and to them, only those on the right can ever be called a Nazi and have it stick. Political violence only matters when it's someone on the right does it. Joe Biden told us that. The people we have to fear most are the radical MAGA extremists. Plattner will slither on through because that's how the game's played. The dilemma for the Democrats find themselves in, they like Plattner. He's a macho man. Doesn't matter if he's a macho Nazi. He talks and acts like a real blue-collar man, not some Ivy League Democrat. But that's the clear evidence of their hypocrisy. They set the rules on this topic. They said no tolerance for Nazi policies, and anyone they deem a Nazi is in fact a Nazi. So by their own rules, we must conclude that Graham Plattner is a Nazi. There's no presumption of innocence allowed. There's no benefit of the doubt. There is certainly no tolerance, redemption, or forgiveness allowed. It's once accused, forever guilty. That's the most powerful weapon they use against the right. Now, everyone is a Nazi who voted for Trump. Elon's a Nazi for waving to the crowd. The media far and wide reported the story as actual fact, and utopians inside the doomsday cult not only believed it, but still do. Just ask them. Trump's a Nazi because Trump is Hitler. Ivanka's a Nazi because she's Hitler's daughter. Melania's a Nazi because she wore an outfit that one time the left side looked like a Nazi outfit. I'm not sure what a Nazi outfit looks like in women's fashion. Democrats have used the word fascist and Nazi as a casual objective, and anyone supporting Trump must fit that definition. But when they're faced with someone who has really supported that type of ideals, they turn a blind eye because he's one of them. That's the hypocrisy, and if you don't see it, it's because you don't want to see it. Senate Democrats are steering clear of Plattner. Schumer has already endorsed Mills. Tammy Baldwin, the Democrat from Wisconsin, said no to endorsing Plattner. Richard Blumenthal, the Democrat from Connecticut, said Plattner had a good story but stayed out. Remember, Blumenthal and his claims about serving in Vietnam, only to find out he was only in the reserves and never left the States. In Maine, I think that if Plattner wins, it's a good omen for Susan Collins. The supporters of Governor Mills know who and what Plattner is and who he will align himself in the Senate. They know he's not good for Maine and not good for the country. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.